computer. Okay, welcome to our 2022 Foster Summit. Thank you guys for coming. I hope we'll have more folks join, but I appreciate everybody who is here. We are gonna start off with a little quick icebreaker. Don't worry, I won't make everybody talk. I just wanted to do something fun at the beginning. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna ask, well, we're gonna get some practice raising your hand. So you can either do it in your video or you can use the raise your hand function. It looks different for everybody, but for me, it's under reactions. And I do this and then this little hand shows up. And then you can lower your hand when you're done. So you can use either one, I don't care. But it's good to practice because we're going to use that later. Okay, so the question is, how many cats do you have right now? And we're going to start with everyone raising their hand. And then lower your hand as I go through them. So everybody got their hand up? Okay. Okay, so keep your hand up if you have at least one cat. And this includes foster cats and kittens, so you can count every single foster kitten you have. All right, did we lose anybody? Oh, Bruce, we lost Bruce. I'm sorry, Bruce. That was just a mean question. Okay, now lower your hand, or keep your hand raised if you have at least two cats. Unless, did we lose anybody? No, okay. How about at least 3 cats? I have to lower mine. So we've got quite a few hands raised. Not too many though. We lost a few people there. Okay, at least 4. All right, we still got a few in the running. At least 5. I think I know who's gonna win this. Is that it? Tiffany wins? I think Tiffany wins. Good job, Tiffany. You get a prize. It's another cat. No, I'm just kidding. It's kind of fun. Sometimes we get people go pretty high, especially we should do it in the kitten season when somebody has a litter of 7 kittens and a mom. I love to do that with my partner and be like, guess what? We have 9 cats right now. It's kind of funny. Well, thanks for doing that with me. Let me open the chat here. Oh, Bruce wants to know how many, Tiffany. 5 and plus 1. I've heard of more. All right, next little thing we're going to do, usually in these meetings, if this is your first meeting, usually we do some reminders. We talk about some things that, you know, last year, like statistics, and then we get into the meat of the meeting, which is, you know, talking about what's going well and what we could improve. I did not get any submissions via the Google form, so I'm assuming that everybody who wants to say something is here, but I'll leave that Google form open for folks who want to, who think of something later or just want to add something that they weren't comfortable talking about here. When we get to that section, I'll probably do like a raise hand thing just because I know it's so hard for people to like turn on their mic and then they're like talking over somebody and it gets awkward. So I'll just like have you guys raise your hands and I'll call on you. Just like 2nd grade. So first, I just want to tell you that the stats from last year are really interesting and awesome. Basically, we really increased our adult fostering, which is what we were trying to do. We are up 34% on adult fostering from the prior year. And that's just been going up and up. Actually, it's just since the pandemic started, we really focused on that program and recruited for that program. And we appreciate all of our adult cat fosters. It's just a better place for a lot of these cats to be and get adopted from. So that's pretty amazing. Our Other numbers have stayed about the same or like just slightly lower on kitten fostering. Interestingly, we had a lot of mom cats last year. I don't know why that was. We had 37% more mom cats and the most mom cats in the past 5 years. So 86 mom cats through 2021, just kind of a random interesting thing. Fewer orphans. And then volunteerism, I always like to point out that foster is the most number of volunteer hours we have compared to like on-site volunteers or off-site volunteers, which is really cool. Like, you know, you guys aren't there and we aren't seeing you, but you're in your home doing all those volunteer hours, and we calculate those hours for you. And it's about twice the amount of hours that we see of on-site fostering, which is really amazing. So give yourself a pat on the back. All right, just a few quick reminders. We have the new adoption process. Many of you haven't gotten to try it out yet. So since you're here, I figured I'd just see if there were any questions. If you want me to do a quick rundown of how it works, I'm happy to do that. Does anybody want to hear that now, or are we all feeling like it's pretty self-explanatory?
Will you do a quick rundown, please?
Yes, absolutely. So the big difference now is that we no longer have a remote adoption coordinator. So that position has gone away and the front desk is handling all the AdopPets applications. So they don't have as much time. I don't know if you've ever seen the front desk, but they are busy. And so they're only going to have time to be able to like open an app and send it your way. They're not going to be able to like call the person and talk to them about things, and all that time has unfortunately gone away. So what they're doing now is just opening the application, sending it to you with a template email. So it's like you and the adopter, and it says, this is the process. And we are putting the responsibility of indoor, outdoor, and no declawing conversations on you guys, which I'm hoping won't be too much of a burden. If it becomes an issue, you can always talk to me about it. But most folks are pretty amenable to it. Most folks just don't understand what those things mean. And when you talk to them about it, they're fine with it. And we have like all the dialogue you need and all the information you need to have those conversations in the foster manuals. So if you just read through those and prepare in advance, it shouldn't be as hard as a lot of folks think it might be. It's actually a pretty easy conversation to have once you're equipped with all the information. If you ever run into any problems with somebody giving you a hard time about that, just refer them back to the shelter. We will have that conversation with them. But the cool thing about the new process is once you've talked to them and you've done your meet and greet, then you just send them a link to schedule their AC session. And that's going to be included in that email. So you don't have to like get back to us and wait for us to get back to them. And, you know, all this time spent back and forth. They can just go schedule that themselves in Acuity. Renee, you have a question?
Is it working the same way if, like Laura and I have on Instagram, a lot of people that contact us directly through that, do they still have to go to AdopPets, or will we still be getting private links?
Yeah, sorry, I was going to get to the other processes. Sorry, I should have mentioned there's 3 processes. The first one is you don't want to be involved in AdopPets at all. Like you're like, I'm not interested in learning AdopPets. Then the front desk will handle that part and just send them your way. So you don't have to like learn AdopPets. That's like the least involved process. And then there's 2 other options. One where you're like, I don't have anybody interested, but I would like to review an AdopPets, and we'll get you a login to AdopPets. We'll get you the template email once you have somebody who's applied and interested so that they can schedule their AC session. And then the third is the private link process, where you already have somebody interested before adoption start. And we just send you those private links. They apply, they schedule their AC session. So they're all very similar. It's just how much you're involved in the finding the people process. Any questions on that? I'm hoping it makes it much quicker to get folks through to their AC session. I know there was a lot of, hey, what's going on? Why has it been a week and my cat still doesn't have an AC session? You know, so I'm really hoping that will help a lot. And there might be some bumps in the road. If you do encounter any issues with it, please do let me know. And then the other change at the shelter is that starting on Tuesday, which is March 1st, we are no longer doing adoption appointments. We are walk-in. Anybody can come in and adopt a cat anytime they want to, which is lovely. We're excited to get that started because it was very limiting having just, you had to have an appointment to come in. We were seeing fewer adoptions that way. We find that, we can do a lot of adoptions in a day if we let people just come on in and adopt. So going back to that, which is wonderful. That's all I wanted to say on that. You guys heard that we lost our shelter manager, Seth, the new one. So we're hiring for that position again. So there's a little bit of a transition we're going through right now. Not only have we changed our foster adoption process, but we're going to start doing walk-in adoptions, and we're looking for a new shelter manager. So go easy on our front desk staff. They're going through some tough times right now, and they're handling it really well, but we just want to be real patient with them. Okay, and then my final little update thing is about Fortiflora. We haven't started this yet, but we are going to start this very soon, I believe. We are no longer going to do just Fortiflora for everybody across the board in foster. It's going to be more specific. And the reason for that is Purina makes this Fortiflora product, right? It's that probiotic powder. And they've communicated to us that it's not really meant to be just given all the time to everybody. It's really supposed to be given in situations where it's needed. So we have decided that the first 2 weeks a cat is at the shelter or in foster, it is important that they have that during that transition and anytime that they're having an issue with loose stool. So there's going to be more specific instructions on how that works, but just wanted to give you a heads up that that is going to start. And then it's going to be another product that's very similar called Calming Care. And that's for our more scared cats and kittens. So they can be put on one of two products. One is Fortiflora and one is Calming Care. And sometimes a combination of the two. You don't have to worry about which one you're going to use. We will help you figure that out when you pick up your foster cat. Anything you wanted to add about that, Dr. Brown?
No, I think you did great. It's perfect. Anybody have questions about it?
Renee does.
I do. So it's kind of a random question, but for pregnant cats who have had babies, once the babies start weaning, will they do 2 weeks of Fortiflora at that point or not?
Yeah, we were going to do it for weaning kittens as well. As they're transitioning, it's a good time to do Fortiflora as well.
Yes, I had that in my notes and I forgot. Yes, so the initial 2 weeks of weaning, because we all know kittens end up loose stool around that time. And when diarrhea is an issue after the initial 2 weeks, so you'd be giving it for the initial 2 weeks. If the kitten then later develops diarrhea, should be given again for a period of 7 days.
And I think Susan had a question. She had her hand up.
Yes. Now, what was the question? Oh, the Calming Care, is that kind of like Composure Pro, but not?
It's a powder like the Fortiflora, and it has a probiotic in it, but just not all the probiotic that Fortiflora has. So that's why we may use a combination, but probably it's going to be one or the other, Calming Care or Fortiflora.
Okay.
And there was there someone else who had their hand up too, or is that it?
We pulled them down.
Okay, great.
So I don't know if I totally understood the answer to that. Does the Calming Care have something extra in it though, besides just the Fortiflora like probiotic?
Right, yeah, it has a calming formula in it as well. Yeah. Cool.
But we would still do Composure Pro separately.
Potentially. I mean, we'll probably start them out on Calming Care. And then if we need to have extra stuff, we may go to the Composure Pro or the Zilkeen. We have a lot of products now at our fingertips, which is nice.
Cool. Any other questions about Calming Care, Fortiflora? We'll let you know when that changes, don't worry. Perfect, okay. We're gonna move on to the, Susan, are you hand still up or no?
No, it can come down.
Okay. All right, we're gonna move on to the big stuff here. So we have 3 sections, and the first one is what is working well in the foster program. The second one is what could be improved, and then the third one is like your big ideas. So I find what happens a lot is when we start talking about what can be improved, people get into the big ideas. So I'm trying to like clarify what that is. So like what can be improved would just be like, you know, oh, I wish that we had like this extra thing in the foster bag or something like that. And then when you get to the big ideas, that's like, I would like to have we would like to put on a play with the kittens involved. Like, obviously not that crazy, but I'm just trying to think of something like, you know, grandiose, like, but it can be reasonable, like something, I think we should create a website, or I think we should, you know, have this whole other part of the program. Like that would be more of a big idea. So it's fine if you say either one in either section. I just wanted to clarify. So we're gonna do hand raising. Oh, Patty was thinking more of a musical with the kittens. Yes, I like that too. First one we're gonna start with is what is working well. So go ahead and raise your hands and I'll call on you, and I'm gonna type these things as you say them. Let's go, Bruce.
Well, I would just like to say that the Zoom meet and greets for kittens is awesome. And I hope I don't hear anything about discontinuing them, but I used to think that you had to let people come and see the kittens in person. And to be honest, it's much better over Zoom, because half the time when new people come over, especially if they have kids and they're running around stuff, the kittens just freak out and they don't show well. But if you're showing them over Zoom and they're comfortable with you, they just like melt in your hands most of the time. And people can really get a true sense of how the kittens are going to be once they get used to their new home environment. So I don't ever really want to do a home visit again, other than maybe if it was a personal friend or something that I, you know, said they could come over. But the Zooms, as far as I'm concerned, are the way to go on meeting kittens. I have never had a problem getting a kitten adopted, so it doesn't discourage adoptions in any way. And I think overall it makes it much easier to show the kittens their true personality to people. So I vote that we don't get rid of Zooms for meet and greets. I don't know that I doubt that was something you were considering. I just wanted to throw it out there to let you know that I think that has revolutionized the way we do kitten fostering.
Thank you, Bruce. That's wonderful feedback. Lucinda.
Yeah, I'm sort of on the same lines. I don't have a lot of points of reference, but it seems to me that the Zoom adoption counseling sessions are actually able to be a lot more thorough. And this is only based on I adopted once from cat adoption team. And I wound up doing my AC session in the PetSmart. And I just found it real, like my kids were there, and, it was very distracted, and it was fine. I knew what I was getting into, but it was very like, oh yeah, okay, what? And when I watched the example of the Zoom AC session that you sent out, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. They get like the visuals, and they really get that quieter time to have those conversations.
Absolutely. Yes, and we are absolutely going to continue those. Thank you, Lucinda. Anne.
Yeah, I had a similar comment. I didn't foster kittens. I usually do socialization, adult socialization cats. And, I think, is it Bruce who spoke first? Your point about the kittens so applies to the socialization cats as well, because if they have someone strange come in, they're under the bed, or not under the bed, because the bed, they can't get under it, it's blocked off, but you know what I mean. Whereas when it's on the Zoom, that person can see what they're like after I've worked with them for several weeks, and they play and they like to be petted and they're friendly. So they see them at their best. which that may not, and I always explain that's not what you're going to get at the beginning, right? But they see that there is this opportunity for a real companion, and they see what that cat is capable of, as opposed to, you know, only seeing the tip of the tail or seeing scared little eyes or something. So I think those Zoom meet and greets for a lot of my fosters are wonderful. And I think it gives the potential adopter a little more kind of a little more space to be able to really think whether this cat fits them, because coming to visit is already half of a commitment, you know? So anyway, I just hope that those continue as well. I saw a lot of comments saying that, and I think it's been great. So thank you for that opportunity to do it that way. That's been wonderful.
Thank you, Anne. Yes, I agree 100%. It sounds like a lot of folks in the chat also agree with you. And I do 100% think we will continue to offer the option for fosters to do it whichever way works best for them and their cat and the person interested. Anybody else have what's going well? This can be like old or new. Emily, is that a hand raise or something else? Okay, there we go.
I just clicked the wrong button. So as you know, I'm new. And so for me, what's going super well is just all of the communication. I write some things, Susan gets right back to me, you get right back to me. I really appreciate it. It doesn't take days or hours. It's really quick. So that's really nice. It doesn't feel like you're alone. Support.
That's lovely. Good job, Susan. That is the idea. We try to support you guys well. Bruce.
I know not everyone does this, but I'm just going to throw in a plug for it. Even though I have some issues with the interface, only because I am a front-end web developer in my other life, so I deal with this stuff all the time. But besides, I can overlook those. I will say that I do like AdoPets, and I think that it makes it, you know, Katie J and I are one of the fosters that do the whole process through AdoPets. We look at the applications and do the front end screening and things like that. And overall, I like that. Makes it much easier than having to communicate back and forth with people and things like that. So I will put a plug in for AdoPets, even though I'm not 100% thrilled with their user interface, but overall, it's pretty good.
Thanks, Bruce. We like AdoPets too. It's streamlined a lot of things for us. All right, let's see. You got some chats here.
Oops.
I love how well the chain of command works.
Oh,
Yep.
no. There we go.
Susan, you have something?
Yeah, I was trying to get back to it. Yeah, the foster manual is really great. And, you know, I really encourage all the new fosters, especially, to rely on that. And then the foster mentor manual, again, is really well organized. The only question I have is, and I haven't looked at it in a little while, but the only question I have is the who to call when issue. You know, we've got this, like, for one thing, you call this person, for something else, you call this person for some. If that could be the first page in the manuals, it would be really helpful, rather than find your issue and then who's to call. Just kind of encapsulate it on the first page and make it more concise.
Yeah, so I'm going to move that down to the improvement section. I'll put that the manuals are great under what's working, but what can be improved. Just so you all know, you do have those little laminated sheets in your foster bag that are a cheat sheet for who to call when.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, everybody's got those in their bag, but I'm happy to also just take that text and throw it in the manual if that's helpful as well. The reason we put it in the bag was because we figured if it was like, you know, something came up and you're like, oh God, my cat has diarrhea, what do I do? That you're more likely to go to your bag than go find your manual. So we were like, yeah, let's just make this easy in case it's something urgent. So yeah, and the mentor should have them too. If you don't, I will get them free. They should be in the mentor bags as well, because the mentor bags are just the foster bags plus everything else. So, but yes, happy to add that to the manual as well. I try not to go crazy with the manuals, they're pretty long, but that is a pretty important thing, I agree. All right, anybody else for what's working well? Jill.
Hi, I appreciate having the area open with all the supplies. So whenever we need something, we can just come and get it. We don't have to call. People don't have to go into a warehouse. We can just pick up food, litter, all those things. So thank you for setting that up.
Yes.
Yeah, we love having that too. We love being able for you guys to just come in and grab it. That was a nice improvement during the pandemic, which is still going. I love that we're talking about a lot of the new things too, because in these previous meetings, we've talked about like, more basic stuff. So we've been like, the mentors are great, the manuals are great, that kind of stuff. But we, we've made a lot of changes really recently, and I love that we're talking about more about what's working with these new things, which is great. Let's see. Renee says, oh, yeah, exactly. That's why we were thinking of those half sheets, is to have them available, because when you're like panicked about your kitten's diarrhea, finding the manual on your phone is not always the easiest thing to do. So yeah, we'll have it in lots of places though. Anybody else have anything to add to the what is working?
Yeah, I love how if we have a kitten with a problem, how you'll let us oftentimes see the email string of like between Dr. Brown or Dr. Brooks and the shelter staff of what the discussion was and the plan is. I want to know everything person. So I do love, and I love how like Dr. Brown, like how I can bring my kittens in for an appointment and you'll come and talk directly to me. And I just love that. I love that it's not just, because I have a friend who's fostering with another organization, and she is like, oh, my sick kitten is with the vet and on some kind of medications, and like doesn't even really know, like they're not really communicating with her. So yeah, so thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
All right, I'm going to put that down as you like the access to the hospital staff and communication with the hospital staff,
Yeah.
which is great. Yeah, I think they do a great job of that. And
I just want to say a big shout out to the clinic and Dr. Brown, because you're wonderful, and I really appreciate the how do I want to put it, the just the really good rational, easy way you deal with the cats. I'm thinking particularly of one of my fosters that had a lot of health issues, and she'd come from another clinic, and they had her on like, I don't know, a half dozen medications and stuff. They just kept throwing more things at her. And when she got here, the clinic here, Dr. Brown, the clinic just said, no, we're going to put her on this one thing and see how she does. And so many of her internal issues all cleared up. So I appreciate that kind of not over the top care. Do you know what I mean? Just actually problem solving, as opposed to do this, whatever. I appreciate that kind of measured care that looks at each individual cat rather than, we'll give all the cats with this issue this. Oh, we give all the cats with this issue this. So we're just going to give everybody this. And that wasn't what worked for her. So thank you. Thank you very much.
I think that's one of the differences between a cat specific vet and a generalist too. Generalists, treat all kinds of different animals. And if there's something specific to cat health, they may not know it.
or specifically shelter cats too. We deal with a lot of like Dr. Brown is a shelter, you know, she's well-trained in shelter medicine, and that's
Yeah.
really important.
Mhm.
She knows her cats.
Well, and trust me, we appreciate all of you. You all are great at following through with the things that we say and the things that we've laid out, and we really appreciate it. We could not do it without all of you. We do not have the staff to try to medicate all these cats and do the individual treatment that you're able to do, and they heal so much better. That's one thing we really saw during COVID, is how much faster all the cats were healing and getting better rather than being in the hospital environment and getting treated. So we really appreciate all the fosters.
And on that note, I would like to add that same with socialization cats and just kittens in general, like having you guys is what is working well. Like, you know, just everybody's so eager to foster and help these cats, and it's so wonderful. And all those little babies under 8 weeks old, they can't live at the shelter. It's not, you know, it's not safe. It's not healthy for them. And all those really scared cats who used to just sit in a kennel and, you know, we were like just trying to work with them and hoping they'd get better. They do so much better in your guys' homes. And so, you know, and they don't get sick as much, and they're much more comfortable. And so it's just amazing what you guys do. Bruce.
Just real quick, I don't know who thought of this, but you've been doing it for a couple of years now. The little card we get at the beginning of each year that lists all the kittens that we fostered and the little note, awesome.
Oh, you like that?
It's so cool to get that in the mail. Then you get to kind of reminisce about all the kitties that yeah. So bravo.
Lovely. Well, you can thank Renee this year. She did the bulk of that work. I like making those too. Those make me happy. All right, Susan.
Does anybody else keep a file of their fosters going back to the beginning? I have a file for every cat, kitten, litter, and pictures going back to 2011 when we started fostering.
Yeah, it's called
Wow.
Instagram.
I think I only know by my photos. I just look back at my photos.
I don't know why I obsess over that. Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, I even, Mary, me too. I even like, if I'm looking for something unrelated to cats, I'll be like, oh, okay, that was in between Barry's litter and, you know, so I can like scroll with like cat photos to find the other photos in between like, the fosters I've had. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, I had someone else tell me that the cards were like how they keep track of it now too. They're like, but someone accidentally didn't get their card, their thank you card, and they were like, I need it. I need it so I can see who I fostered. I was like, oh my gosh, sorry, we think we sent it to the wrong address. But we got her one, don't worry. All right. Let's see. Chats are all the same stuff. Great stuff, you guys. Thank you so much. I love hearing what's working well. But I also really do like hearing what needs to be improved, because you guys come up with great ideas, and we often implement them. So this isn't just for you to like tell us stuff and we'll be like, yeah, sure, maybe. Some things we can't do, but some things we actually do. And we take this information to our staff meeting in a couple of weeks, and we talk about all the things you guys are interested in doing and see if we can make them happen. So it's time for that round. What would you like to see improved?
I have one thing. Now that I have more experience, last year I was like, I don't know, I'm so new. But I think if there was some kind of like a written protocol for the weekend for pain control. So I remember I had my little cannoli had a vaccine reaction, and I know that he wasn't diagnosed until Monday, but he just had a lot of joint pain and wasn't walking. And Dr. Brown had said, I think, I can't remember if it was to you, Mary, or to what, Renee, I can't remember, but that it would have been okay to get some buprenorphine, however you say it, over the weekend. But I think like our staff didn't realize like that would have been okay. So I think something written out to allow that to happen on the weekend would be awesome.
Yeah, the veterinary staff does have access to the pain medications, and Yeah, I'll make sure I go over that with them again and make sure that they know that they have that access and that they can prescribe that. I'd rather the cats have even a couple of days of pain medication until the doctors can get in and deal with it further than not. It's never going to hurt them to have a little bit of pain medication. So I'll make sure, I'll reiterate it with the staff. Thank you.
And that may also be related to who's answering the foster email as well, or the front desk phone. And so I can also make sure we get training for both of those areas, because sometimes it might not even make it to the vet assistant to request. So Lucinda.
And this may have been more of a one-off, but the most recent cat that I had and adopted out was an adult. The first time I've done just an adult, not without kittens. And it's also the first cat I've had to adopt, not just from my Instagram page, but like through being on, your website. And the process of like getting her a good photo and bio up on the website was slow. And so I don't know if there was a better way I could have done things, or but it was just kind of like I suggested from the beginning that like I could send in photos and bios, and then no one collected that from me. And then the photo and bio that was there was like, I thought no one's going to adopt this cat from these 2 little sentences and this one scared photo. And then, we did eventually get it. But I guess maybe I just need to maybe I should do the training to know how to be able to, right? Because fosters can train to be able to learn that software. So you could go in and actually put up your own photos or not.
So I'll just do a little rundown just for everybody, just in case. In the manual, there's a whole section on marketing. And I think in your situation, it was a little strange, Lucinda, because I think she was available for adoption right when you took her home. And so we didn't go through that process of being like, hey, now it's time for adoption. Can you submit this stuff? And that may have been a communication error on my end, but you as a foster are always welcome to submit photos and bios. It just goes to that Pet Finder email and they will update it within 24 hours. So we usually prompt you to do so when it's time for adoption, but just so you guys know, you can always do that without the prompting. Sending it into Pet Finder doesn't mean that the cat's going to be available or anything like that. All that means is that volunteer is going to update our Shelter Buddy software with that information, and that doesn't change their availability status or anything like that. So there are volunteers that do that. They check that email daily and they can put in videos, they can put in photos, they can update bios, all of that stuff. There is a text limit on the bios, just so you know. So if you end up sending something really long, we might have to take a few things out, but that's the way you get those updated. And I apologize if there was any miscommunication on how to make that happen.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was new for me too. So, but I just feel like, especially with adult cats, like it just seems really important to have, a good photo and to have things that, the foster actually knows about them, not just the sort of general.
Absolutely. And that's why I like to wait a few days when I send them home with a foster, even if they could be available right away. I'm like, hey, take a few days, get to know this cat, even though we know it's going to be available, and get some photos and write up a bio, because it's way better than having that scared admissions photo and just a generic bio. I'd rather you guys get to know the cat a little bit first before we make them available. Bruce.
Me again. So the last time I was there to pick up kittens after surgery, you had just switched it to where we came in the front entrance to pick up the kittens, and the front desk staff kind of did all the work there. And of course, all of the supplies were in the back by you. And of course, the front desk didn't have those out for me. And so I left without some of those supplies because I didn't go in through the side entrance where all the supplies were to remind me to pick them up. So maybe things have changed since then. I just wanted to let you know that picking them up in the front and having all the supplies in a completely different area makes it really easy to forget to get all the supplies if for some reason the front desk doesn't already have them for you or something like that.
Yes, thank you. And that was brought to my attention by somebody else too. And I have reminded the front desk that they are responsible for making sure you get your adopter supplies. I assume that's what you're talking about, your cardboard carriers, your adopter bags of food, your vet certs, baby certs, that whole bundle. They have those supplies up front because they do that for adoptions too, right? Like they send cats home in those cardboard carriers, they send them with the adopter bags of food, they send them with vet certificates. It's the same thing. It's just that you're taking it as a bundle for all of your kittens. And I did just send out or do a reminder in our weekly shelter meeting because that did happen to somebody else too. We do have some volunteers who are front desk assistants, and sometimes if the staff is on a phone call, they're the ones handling it. So it is a good idea, even though we train them, it's a good idea to just remember to ask them for it in case they are, new or something like that. They do have that stuff up there. If they don't remember, try to remember yourself. Now, if you need like supplies for yourself, like if you need like your, more food for your kittens or more litter or whatever, you do have to come back to KHQ.
Sure.
That is the downside to this.
No, I was definitely thinking, like, I'm assuming kittens still go home with a free bag of food for the,
Yes.
so things like that, what might help is maybe you had a checklist. They could hand the foster coming to pick up their kittens, and then the foster can just go down that checklist real quick to make sure that they have everything they need.
That's a
Another
good
piece of
idea.
paper.
So front desk. Write this down.
I mean, that's what I usually write a mental list. I usually write a list when I'm going there anyway, especially if I need to pick up other supplies. But this one time, of course, I didn't need to. And I was just like, oh yeah, I'll go pick, and of course, then they didn't, I brought back my kittens without the bags of food, and none of the adopters said anything because these were older kittens, and it was no big deal. But
No, it's a long drive for some of you to come back. if you
yes,
have to.
yeah, that's what. Yes, yeah.
Hey, Mary,
Yes.
to add on to Bruce's thing about the checklist, is there a way when we send the emails out with their confirmation time that they're picking up to add the checklist onto that so the front desk staff isn't responsible for one more thing to try and remember to give the foster? Like,
You mean the surgery pickup invite? Because it does say it on there.
no, the checklist of things that they
No,
may need.
It is, yeah, and that's what I mean. Do you want
Oh.
that on the surgery pickup instructions? Because it is.
Okay,
Like when you get your acuity invite for surgery pickup, it says, make sure you get this, 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 and
Right.
this.
Okay.
To remind the foster parent to gather those things. So that is there, but I think maybe like Bruce is saying, like you got a lot
In
of other
person.
stuff going on.
In person when you're picking up kittens, and especially if you're in the front area with other people around there and they're doing other things, it's so easy to forget these things when you're just like, okay, I just want to get out. You had to fight Friday afternoon traffic to get there in the first place, and you've been in your car for 45 minutes and you're just like, I just want to get my kittens and get out of here.
But all the kittens haven't had surgery, so it's not necessarily attached to a surgery thing. If you're picking up
It is.
3-week-old kittens, they're not coming out of surgery.
Oh, that would happen in the back in KHQ. We're just talking about post-surgery pickup for
Okay.
fosters. Yeah.
I haven't had to deal with that for a long time.
Yeah, the only thing that you guys still are doing at the front desk is that surgery drop off and pickup. Everything else, like your initial foster pickup, supply pickup, any medication pickup, is all happening back at the clinic entrance where myself and our team is. But yes, I do agree that we could have maybe something like for the volunteers specifically. The staff they know, but like they get busy. So like maybe for the volunteers, there could be a little checklist. And I'm happy to do that.
I had a foster parent reaching out to me last year. The adopter purchased the pain medication after surgery, but when we picked up the kitten, the adoption counseling and the payment hasn't happened yet, so we didn't get the specific medication that the adopter paid for, and they didn't know what to do because they were supposed to give them the adopter the medication home. So maybe an information for our foster parents would help here what to do in that case. What can they offer the adopter, or what should they tell the adopter?
Yeah, that has happened. It seems to be an issue on when we have an AC session right around the surgery time, which is, I know, challenging on the hospital and challenging on the AC team and challenging on the foster. And we've tried to do we have like a whole chat section right now on pain meds so that ACs can actually be like, hey, I'm doing this session right now and this person's purchasing pain meds. Can we get those made up? And so we're trying to improve in that area. It's still a little bit, it's always going to be a little bit weird. But I think we'll have to think about some ways to
I
improve
think
that.
in that case, the kitten was already going home and the AC session was the next day. So since the kitten was already neutered or spayed, they could have gone right away home after the AC session to be picked up. But the pain meds that the people purchase, the adopters, they last for 3 days. So this was more the problem, not that, yeah.
Let me make sure I'm understanding you right. So surgery had happened and the AC session was the following day.
I think something like that, because what you purchase as an adopter is the pain medication that you give for 3 days once.
Yeah, but we usually don't offer it if it's the surgery already happened, right, Dr. Brown?
Yeah, exactly. That's strange.
Yeah, if it was like yesterday, we're not being like, do you want post-op pain meds? But I think there's an option, and Tiffany, maybe you know the most about this, for them to buy it in AddoPets. And so sometimes people just do that.
Maybe.
And it slips past us. Is that right, Tiffany?
Yeah, so every once in a while, somebody sees that option in AddoPets and just will purchase them, you know, and usually in that case, we just talk to AutoPets and get them to do a refund. So,
Okay, perfect.
you know, every once in a while things slip through the cracks. Every once in a while, you know, like somebody. So yeah, I mean, we do our best, and I know I always double check that pain meds are paid and stuff like that. But you know, there's human error. Fosters forget to pick up pain meds, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, right. Just that the foster parents know what to do or what to tell the adopters when they then pick up the kitten.
Yeah, I would say if there's any confusion on anything they purchased and that you don't have it, that you have them reach back out to the shelter and say, hey, or you can reach out to the shelter, either one of you, and say, hey, this is what happened, and we'll either refund them or get them what they purchased.
Okay.
It can also be a problem if they are picking the kitten up the day after surgery, because these drugs we can't leave these drugs sitting out. We have to lock them up somewhere overnight. So if it's going to be the same day, we just take them down to the front desk and leave them. But if it's going to be the next day, then we lock them up. And sometimes there's a communication between the front desk and the fact that we have locked up drugs and we don't know exactly when the cat's going home. So there can be some confusion that way as well. Maybe just making sure that your adopter knows they're supposed to ask for that medication.
Or if the foster is picking up, you know, I think it's hard. We'll note it for something to think about at our meeting. Okay. Anne.
Yeah, just one comment and one question that relates to supplies, but the comment relates to the pet finder. So I've always been doing adult cats primarily. Anyway, I find pet finders great. So I think once you get into using that system and submit things, they're wonderful. And I really enjoy writing my little blurbs about, you know, my special kitties. So I enjoy the fact that I can send it and then someone else puts it up and I don't have to learn how to do that and be responsible. They just take care of it. And they are very good is my experience. I just want to give them a shout out. But then I had a question about supplies. One of the things in the supply area that you set up, which is great, says, at least that's what I noticed last time, and maybe I was wrong. So forgive me if I'm remembering this incorrectly, but I think it said rabies certificates. Is there something we can pick up for that? Because often the cats I have don't sometimes they go home with a certificate, sometimes they don't. And I just want to be sure I can tell their adopter the right story on that. That's all.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. It turns out we may have been doing this a bit wrong in the past, and we've since fixed it. All cats 16 weeks and over should have a signed rabies certificate that you can hand to the adopter. And that will either be one from a previous shelter or one that our veterinarians have given. And so going forward, you should always have that. Is that
So
right,
will
Dr.
that-
Brown?
Is that something then that we would be given when we pick up our foster? So it should be in that packet that we get with them, or whatever, you know, supplies or whatever.
Yeah, I usually, if it's cat's already altered, they should already have their rabies vaccine, unless there's some extenuating circumstances that they couldn't get it before they went to foster. But it should be, I usually staple the free vet certificate and the rabies certificate to your adopter bag of food. So it's all there in one little packet. And then if they come in, have to come back for surgery, then you'll get it at surgery pickup.
Okay, because yeah, sometimes I've gotten it, sometimes I haven't, and I usually end up saying to the adopter, well, I'm giving you the medical record. They probably sent it to you anyway, but if you look at the medical record, there's a rabies number or whatever here, so you can, at least they have some way of knowing that when they take their animal to a vet, then they can show that, because it's so important. You know, vet won't treat, at least my vet won't treat an animal unless they have a rabies shot. So anyway, but in the future, then I should have a piece of paper that actually is the signed piece of, okay, that's good to know. I'll remember that on my supply list, that make sure I pick up is a signed piece of paper. Thank you.
Right, and that's, somebody asked the question, it's whether we've given it or another shelter has given it, we should have a certificate. If we don't have, even though the other shelter says, yes, we gave a rabies vaccine, but sometimes they don't come with the actual certificate, we're going to give the rabies vaccine again, so that we do have a certificate, because it is important to have that piece of paper.
Mhm.
But they do have to be 16 weeks and older for that vaccine. That's when we give it, is 16 weeks and older.
Lucinda.
Yeah, anyway, that was interesting, because I did just recently adopt an adult cat, and I never had any conversations with anyone about rabies. So anyway.
That should be done by the adoption counselor. It's not really
Okay,
your
so it
responsibility.
was probably the adoption counselor and the adopter would have had that.
Yeah, about when
Anyway,
that was given.
that
it was due.
conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, but my original raised hand was, this may not be useful at all, but I know another rescue I have worked with, this is back to the pain med thing. The other rescue I've worked with, they actually do an injectable pain medication during, at the time of surgery, and it lasts for, can't remember, but it's supposed to actually last for like 3 days. And so I don't know what the risk, cost, benefits, whatever those decisions are, but it's actually really easy, just, for fosters and adopters, because it's done. Like, they've had their pain meds, and by the time it wears off, it's done.
Yeah, I wish we could use that. I've used it in other states. It's illegal in Oregon. I know that some veterinarians do use it, but legally in Oregon, you have to be an actual licensed manufacturer in Oregon. And the only company that makes that product is a compounding pharmacy called Zoofarm, and they are not a licensed manufacturer. So we legally cannot use that product. It's great. I love it.
Is it Symbidol, or what's it called?
No, it's a product by, no, Symbidol is a 24-hour buprenorphine, but it has a lot more reactions. But the one that they're talking about is a compounded product by Zoofarm. And it lasts for 3 days. It's an awesome product. Just can't use it in Oregon.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what you could buy it from them for a specific cat. You can't buy a bottle of it to use in multiple cats.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's a law in Oregon. So
okay. Yeah, I just wondered, because it's just so much, the process is just a lot easier for that whole, you don't have to worry about giving them meds. And
totally agree. I wish we could use it.
Let's see, Renee, you still got your hand up?
I do, and I have like a few questions now from everybody's stuff. talking. My first one is, are we still giving an option on where to pick up foster kittens that have been adopted since we're opening up to the public, or are they all going back to being picked up at the shelter post-surgery?
That was something on my list to talk to, well, probably talk about at Summit. We haven't really come to a decision on that yet. My feeling is that we're going to leave it as an option for folks.
Okay.
Because there is a lot of folks who would prefer one or the other, and I don't want to take away those options. So right now, maybe you haven't seen this yet, Renee, but we're asking that as a part of the adoption questions. When we send out the little like 5-week email, it's like, hey, are you planning to pick your kittens up and do adoptions from your house, or do you want us to make sure we have space at the shelter for them after stay?
Okay, because, and sometimes you could have a group of kittens and one adopter lives closer to the shelter, and so they want to pick up from the shelter, and another one lives closer to the foster, so it could be split. Is that still going to be an okay thing to do?
Yep, just that'll be just
Okay.
something I'll have to communicate with us, either the AC or with myself, to say, hey, we need to make
This cat's
shelter
going
pickup
here, this
happen.
cat's coming home. Okay, so off of that question, when an adopter picks up from our home, they have 24 hours from surgery. Basically, they have by the end of the next day to pick up the cat or the kitten. If that adopter, and I've had this happen and I wasn't sure what to do, so I just went ahead and did it, and Dr. Brown may smack my hand for it. But if they've if they've bought pain meds, you're supposed to start those pain meds either that night or the next morning. So I gave it to them even though they weren't prescribed to me. That's okay. Okay, good. I'm not in trouble.
No, you're
Yeah.
supposed to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to do that. That's fine.
Okay, okay, because I just wasn't sure on the timeline thing. I get really up, persnickety because I've messed up in the past on when I can give a prescribed medication and when I can't.
No, that's
So-
fine. But I also want to assure everybody that every kitten over 2 pounds gets a pain injection at the time of surgery that lasts 24 hours. So they're all on pain medication for 24-hour period with surgery. We just, the extra that we're sending when the adopter chooses it, or that we give in the shelter, or that we send an extra dose with you at home, is a bonus. So they've all got 24 hours worth of pain medication on board.
Okay, so and I have one more question, and it's about the rabies stuff. Sometimes doing admissions, we get a rabies cert and we upload it onto the Shelter Buddy system. Is that sufficient, or do we need to be keeping those pieces of paper? Because in the past, we just, once everything's uploaded onto Shelter Buddy, we just toss the paperwork.
You should always keep the paper rabies certificate.
Okay, okay.
I'll bring that up at our next admissions meeting. Because that is kind of new with this new policy. Good questions. I didn't actually write anything down for that. I think that was more just like questions rather than improvements. Let me know if I missed something there. Anne, are you still hand raised?
Oh, no, sorry. I have to, the thumbs up goes away, but the raised hand doesn't, and I always forget that. Sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry. My bad.
Maybe else have some improvements, suggestions.
Yeah, can you get a satellite office up here in the Northwest?
That's a big idea, Bruce. I'll put that under big ideas. Bruce wants a satellite office next to his house.
Yeah, I'll second that too. I'd love that. I'd love it. We need one up here. Bruce, are you north of 26?
Yeah, up in the up above St. Vincent's in Cedar Mill area.
Oh, yeah, I'm in Cedar Mill also, and I would love it if we had a spot up here. That would be awesome. Awesome, awesome. We have a lot of empty store
I
plans.
was joking, of course. It's just that since we kind of pushed back the pickup dates after surgeries, I used to get the earliest one I could, which I think was 3 o'clock.
Or, I
And so
think, yeah, I mean,
especially on a Friday, traffic wasn't at that time wasn't terrible, but now you can't get there till 4 o'clock. I think, is that the earliest now? Mary?
4:30.
4:30. So
Yeah.
you can imagine on Friday, I mean, literally from my house to could take almost an hour sometimes. So, you know, so that's my improvement recommendation. Let the people who are further away be able to pick up their kittens earlier. I understand why you're doing it, so I'm not really complaining.
Well, you are more than welcome to opt to have shelter pickups for your adopters. That is totally fine.
True.
Yeah.
But like people are
Remember
saying,
that.
a lot of the times people are closer to us, and you know, you like to do it as a favor, and you also like to see your kittens after they've had surgery to make sure they're okay and give them that extra tender loving care before they go on to their new homes. But yeah,
And
you're
weigh the
right.
cost
Yeah.
benefit. I get it. I do. I will say on the making trips to the shelter, I'm always encouraging folks to work with their fellow foster parents and their mentor to reduce trips to the shelter. So like, I know like with Tiffany, and she has a ton of mentees out in the Southeast, I'm always like, oh, if you have to pick that thing up, someone's coming here at this time, maybe they can grab it for you. You know, you have your, you know, I would always say, if you don't know who your other mentees are in your area, like reach out to your mentor and say, hey, you know, like I've got some medication I need to pick up. Is anyone going that way? Do you know of anything? You can reach out to me. You can look at the Google map of the foster parents, which not everybody is on, but it's an opt-in map, and it will have email addresses for people near you, just so you can reach out and see.
Can I just say then, Bruce, if you need something, let me know, because my husband is always happy to drive down to Cat Adoption Team when the traffic's not bad, because it's right next to the Builder Supply. So I just have to give him a time limit so I don't lose him. So just let me know. He'll say, oh, I have to drive down there. So
that's great. Yeah, Facebook group too. I noticed a lot of people put that out on there, like, hey, I'm going down. Does anybody need anything? Or hey, can anyone pick this up for me? Like, do that. Don't even feel bad about that. Some people are at the shelter all the time, like for various reasons, and you don't mind being there. And so, you know, feel free to ask or offer. And if there's ideas on how to improve that process, throw them out there.
I wonder if, you know, maybe a couple of people that live in certain areas farther. I mean, I'm in the Southeast, but even then, sometimes it takes me 45 minutes, or it often takes me 45 minutes to get there. I wonder if there was like, you know, we could identify someone in certain outer locations who would like volunteer to be the pickup, you know, the pickup point for, I'll hold some supplies at my house and then people can pick up from here if you're in the Southeast. Or
yeah, and you know, I try to, with like some regular supplies, like just litter and food and whatnot, like I encourage folks to pick up everything they need when they first get their cat, so they don't have to come back. But I assume you're talking about things that like maybe a prescription medication or some special supply that you didn't know you needed, or you know, stuff like that. I try to give you everything you need right away, but there's always going to be those little things, or maybe your kid needs to come in for a vet appointment and you can't make the time, something like that. Those things are going to come up. And so, yeah, I think we've talked about having the like actual food and litter supplies out in areas, and it just didn't make a lot of sense. Like most folks don't have that kind of space in their house to keep those kinds of supplies around. So I just really encourage you to take as much as you need. Don't worry about it. We get it free from Purina. You're not taking too much. If you're taking a litter of kittens, I set you up with like 20 cases of wet food, because you'll use it, you know, especially if you're far away. And then also those kinds of supplies, some people just have them left over too. And so it's worth reaching out to your mentor, the Facebook group, or one of those places to see like, hey, you know, I'm running out of kitten food. Like, does anybody just happen to have a supply? And a lot of people will just have some leftovers at their house. And again, or be willing to already willing to make the trip to the shelter to pick up whatever's needed from there. So I know it's really hard because you guys are all out in your own homes and you're not like talking to each other, and it can be hard to connect with other people and make those happen. But I don't know if you guys thought maybe like it would be nice to have little get to know each other sessions with your mentor and their fellow mentees and get to know each other and get each other's contact info. Is that something that would be interesting to you guys?
I think it would be really, I think it would be really neat too. I mean, it's obviously we're in a pandemic, you know, but maybe as things get a little better and the weather gets better, I mean, I think it'd be awesome to actually do some in-person, you know, casual getting together and to know people. So I sort of know some people from, you know, just Instagram, or I actually know Laura from meeting her, but but I don't know many people, and I hardly ever, because I'm farther away, like I'd love to volunteer at the shelter, but it's not very practical, so I hardly ever get there. So yeah, it would be nice to feel more connected.
Yeah, and someday maybe we'll go back to actually having these meetings in person. I don't know if that will happen or when, but I was even thinking for now, it could be, you know, I can chat at the next mentor meeting with the mentors and see if like they want to host their own little Zoom, or even just send out a group email and be like, hey, you know, who would like to be in contact with their neighbor fosters, and kind of initiate that that kind of connection, virtual or not. It could just be an email, it could be a Zoom, and then later down the road, maybe in person, just so that people have each other's contact info and feel more comfortable reaching out.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could add that to what I feel like went well was I know it wasn't this past year, but when we did that, I think it was with Nicole. Was it making the brookies over Zoom?
Oh,
that was
okay.
a lot of fun. And then I was bummed it got canceled, although I was going to be out of town. But the movie out in the parking lot sounded like it would have been fun if we didn't get rained out. I think, did it get rained out?
Yeah, something happened.
Yeah, but stuff like that is fun to connect with other fosters.
Yeah, because we do a lot of general volunteer events where volunteers can come, or we used to at least. There's the volunteer appreciation, and a lot of that stuff is on Zoom now. But you know, it would be nice to do something more foster specific where you guys can meet other fosters. I'm gonna put some notes down. Susan, do you have something?
Yes. Sorry, check on Kitty. With the reaching out to see if someone can help with something, I can frequently meet somebody from the Southeast area in Oregon City. Hi, Laura. Like Laura and I did when we exchanged, was it Cosmo that we exchanged? I forget which one it was. But you know, I live close to the shelter.
Samantha.
Oh, it was Samantha, right. I live close. Yeah, I live close to the shelter, so I can meet somebody in Oregon City who wants to come out and meet me in the Southeast to pick up something. So the reaching out on the Cat Foster Parents Connect is, you know, a pretty good resource.
Thanks, Susan. Oh, we've gone over an hour. I apologize. Okay. Well, let's just move on to big ideas, and if you think of more improvements, we can do those at the same time. Does anyone have any big ideas?
Open a Purrington's in Cedar Mill.
You want a Purrington?
In Cedar Mill,
yeah. You
yes.
can start one.
Yeah, get together a couple $100,000 and start one.
Have you guys been to the dog beer? What is it? Fido's Tap Room or something? I don't know what it's called. Where you visit adoptable dogs and drink beer? No? It's in Tigard.
Oh, one here in Tigard?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been there.
Dogs, what are those?
Here, I'll show you a cute one.
Speaking of, even though I had a Saint Bernard that weighed more than I did a couple of years ago.
This is Jasmine. She's 11. She's like, why? Okay, anything else? All right. Well,
Can I ask one more question then?
yes,
If-
ma'am.
With the shelter opening then for people to just walk in and start adopting, what do you see as far as need for fosters? Because, you know, during the pandemic, of course, you're trying to get as many cats out as possible, but I'm just wondering what you see. Should we expect to have fewer need for fosters in the future, or do you think that's going to be kind of steady for the special needs, or what? Just talk about that for a minute or two, please.
Absolutely. What a great question. It's interesting because we suspected that with opening shelter visits that we would see our adult foster cats get less attention. So we suspected that once people were able to come to the shelter and view cats in person, that maybe our ones in foster would just get ignored, and that didn't happen. Like, we were still doing pretty good adoptions from foster, even with just virtual meets. And it was, again, like we talked about, better for these sick or scared or whatever cats to be out in foster. Honestly, it's better for any cats in foster than at the shelter, but we didn't really see it become a challenge to adopt out those cats. So I mean, obviously at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody was like, give me a cat. And so it was like crazy and we could adopt them out really fast, but it's actually, they're not staying in foster as long as any longer than we would expect. And we would like to continue to send our adults to foster at the rate we're doing now, if not more. I mean, I'm happy to just, I mean, foster's the future, as they say. Like, you know, the more cats we can have in foster, the better. And it's really just a matter of marketing them really well. And we have our marketing team who can post them on Instagram, and we have you guys who can write these bios and give us really great photos and videos. And we really think that we'll be able to continue doing this going forward without any, you know, extended length of stay for these kitties. It's really just, it's better for them. So we need you, Anne. Don't go anywhere. Is what I'm saying.
Well, I have an empty room, so I'm kind of wondering, but okay.
Well, and I was telling you, someone was asking me where are all the cats, right? What happened is we had our break week and we sent all the cats to foster or adopted them out, and then we didn't have any cats for a week. And now we are just, this week we got in best friends and we are just filling up the shelter again. So that's why the list has been a little empty for a bit, but don't worry.
Okay.
We'll fill back up. We have lots of transports planned, so. And then kittens, I don't know where the kittens are, guys. I don't know. They just come when they come. Lucinda.
Another just question, but having had the experience last year of dealing with Pan-Luc and seeing a lot of places dealing with it, I just wondered if you had a thought or a prediction of, you know, because it seemed like last year there was really a rise in that among the cat population. And I wondered if you thought that would continue or drop off, or if there's some thoughts about, you know, this sort of maybe post-pandemic, how that's going to trickle down with all of it. I mean, the spay neuters and the diseases and.
Dr. Brown, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I kind of missed the first half because I'm reading Bruce's and Renee's text over here, but you're asking about whether the pandemic caused a kind of a kitten surge. Is that kind
Or
of
about Pan-Luc mostly?
Yeah, and you know, I experienced seeing more, it seemed there was more panleukemia in the kitten population, and you know, I was exposed and other fosters I knew were, and OHS and IMCAS, you know, and so I just wondered if that you thought that was connected to the kind of the pandemic lack of spay neuter, and if when there's a Pan-Luc surge, if you think it will linger a few years.
Yeah, no, I really don't. I mean, Pan-Luc goes kind of in cycles, and we'll have years that we see a lot more of it, and then years would be like, okay, nobody say the word, but we haven't seen any of it, you know, so we don't like to say that out loud. But it goes in cycles, and you know, I don't think that really has anything to do with the pandemic directly. unless there's a lot more cats and there's a lot more stress because of more cats, then that potentially that extra stress could lead to more disease. Currently, we do have over 1,000 cats on our spay neuter list that are just public cats that are in need of spay neuter that we're trying to get through right now. So we're trying to get in as many spay neuters as we can to keep that kitten surge from happening that everybody fears. But I think between us and OHS, we've been doing a pretty good job of ramping back up and getting some cats spayed and neutered so we can prevent that as much as possible. So we are also starting to do a few cat birth control clinics. So putting some cats on a birth control until we can get them in to get them spayed. So we're doing some things like that too. But as far as Panluc, it comes and goes, and I don't really think it directly has anything to do with the pandemic.
Thankfully, we don't see as much as some of the other shelters and rescues, and we have very good protocols for.
You had to say it, didn't you, Mary? Thanks a lot.
I did. We don't. I say that all the time, and we still don't see it. No, we see it, but when it happens, what I was trying to get at is when it happens, it doesn't spread through our shelter because we have really good protocols in place.
We do, yeah. We lock it down pretty quickly.
And you guys have really good protocols for isolating your kittens and all of that. So. All right. I'm gonna give it another minute in case anyone wants to talk about anything. I'm reading the comments from Renee and Brent. Guys just having a little conversation over there.
It's entertaining, huh?
Yeah, Renee wants an orange tabby mom.
I mean, when I saw that on the spreadsheet, I just couldn't help but laugh. I mean, that's pretty specific request. I was like, you might as well not even be on the wait list. A pregnant orange tabby.
I saw kitten X lady, Hannah Shaw. She's got a pregnant orange, or she had a pregnant orange cat. Now she's got mama and babies. And so I jokingly reached out to Mary and I was like, Her Royal Highness needs an orange or an orange and white mama cat. So I'm going to need you to get on that. So it was a joke, but I wouldn't refuse one.
Just a preference.
And then, of course, last year I get a female orange pregnant tabby, first orange female I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Sorry, Renee.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Well, thank you, Dr. Brown, for coming and helping out. Thank you for everyone who attended. And again, I'm going to send out the recording, and I'll send out the form in case anybody has any follow-up things that they think of. They can welcome to submit it on the form. And we will talk about all this stuff at our staff meeting. Appreciate y'all and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
Thank you.